More than anything, we are going to catch this person. The last thing I will just say is we've been working with our attorneys, getting everything that we need, affidavits ready, so that we can pursue the death penalty in this case, and that will happen here in the state of Utah.
Let's talk about what's trending in true crime. Defendant Tyler Robinson, the man accused of murdering conservative activist Charlie Kirk, is due in court in Utah today. The hearing was supposed to be an in-person hearing, but was changed to a virtual one over the weekend. And Robinson will be appearing from the Utah County Jail instead of from the courtroom. Now, this is essentially a status hearing on the case. Utah has a hearing where the parties meet to determine whether a defendant wants to have a preliminary hearing. Usually after the arraignment in most states, you go right to the prelim, and on that date, you can choose to waive it and not have one. But Utah has a hearing to plan for that hearing if a defendant wants one. So that's expected to be addressed today. Also, the formalization of defense counsel and making sure that there's an open line of communication between the defense and the prosecution. That's another thing the judge is expected to take up. Robinson, of course, is accused of shooting Kirk at that rally at a university in Utah. And he's been behind bars in a special housing unit at the Utah County Jail ever since. This morning, we're asking our power panel, will public outcry affect any of these pretrial matters? And also, we want to talk about the reason that this was changed from an in-person hearing to a virtual hearing. So let's tackle those things. Let's bring back in Mario Gallucci and welcome in retired NYPD Detective Tom Smith. Great to talk to you both on this. So let's start with the public outcry. We know a lot of people talking about this case. Tom Smith, let me start with you. You've worked a lot of cases. When you're working one, does the court of public opinion have any bearing on it?
Well, unfortunately, it does. It shouldn't, as we all know, but it does. And in this case, it's going to play a tremendous role in this because of what it involves and who it involves and the circumstances of it. And you want to make sure everything is done the right way. And the relationship between the detectives and agents and the DA's office is pure, and they're getting all the information possible to make sure that there isn't that leaning towards taking care of the public opinion other than what's going on in the courtroom.
Mario, tell me, when you heard that this hearing was changed, why do you think, your best educated guess on why that may have been done from making it an in-person hearing to a virtual hearing?
So I would assume that the publicity surrounding this case is so vast that it would just be so much easier to do this virtually. I mean, it's a very simple hearing. So to have him brought over to the courthouse, to march him in front of people, to get him in and out, would be a media circus. And why would you want to do that if you could avoid it? Especially in a case which we're discussing, you know, public outcry. If a judge could limit the amount of public exposure to the case, it would be very helpful to everybody in the matter, especially to this young man who's charged with this crime.
Right, right. Let's talk about something else. Tyler Robinson's attorney. This attorney, her name is Kathy Nestor. She's familiar to us courties at Court TV. Let's take a look.
I also took a deep dive into the Sixth Amendment case law, and it is clear that had any judicial proceedings happened as of that date, we would be in a different posture.
Okay, so that was a clip from, you guessed it, one of Corey Richin's pretrial hearings. That is where we've seen attorney Kathy Nestor before. She is one of the attorneys representing the Utah mother who's accused of killing her husband and then writing a grief book about it. And Nestor is now being court appointed as counsel for defendant Tyler Robinson. Now, she is not with the Utah Public Defender's Office. They had a conflict of interest, could not take the case, so the court can appoint outside defense counsel. So that is what has happened here. She's going to be on two of the biggest cases that our Court TV viewers are no doubt watching. So let's talk about how she might impact this case for Tyler Robinson. She is a very seasoned attorney, practiced there in Utah a long time. Mario, what do you think her impact may be here?
So she's very bright and she knows the law. As you see, the argument she was just making, the Sixth Amendment argument, is a very good argument, and she brings to the courtroom her ability to argue educated things that will be better for the defense in this case. You know, when you have certain attorneys that know the law and are able to argue the law, judges are influenced by that. You know, there's some of us are very good in a courtroom because we can move around and we can ask questions. And then you have those that are very bright. And not saying I'm not bright, but I'm just saying that she brings to that courtroom a very, very, very good education, and she'll do very well here. This is the type of case you want her on.
Yes, you're the perfect combo, Mario. You are bright and you're so much fun to watch. You're so dynamic in the courtroom. Give me bright and dynamic all day long. That is you, Mario Gallucci. I want to talk a little bit more about the case investigation while we have you here, Detective Tom Smith, because I think a lot of our viewers are wondering, is it done? Is this guy going to be the only defendant here? Could there possibly be others who were involved in this assassination? What are your thoughts on that, please?
Yeah, the investigation doesn't stop. Even when the court proceedings begin, nothing stops with the investigation. So they're going to continue to look at every aspect of it. And some of it takes some time, with especially the digital part and interviewing the number of people that they're probably going to have to involving this case. And it's going to lay out. And, you know, tips come in all the time. They might not be a tip that comes in for another couple of weeks of someone knowing something that will lead investigators to possibly somebody else. So the investigation is always going to continue, even with the court proceedings started.
Right. Tom, what do you think? What is your opinion? And granted, we know you don't have access to the case files, but you have, of course, been researching this, following every major development. Do you think there are more arrests coming?
I don't think so, but then again, I'm not privy to the case folder and what investigators know and who they're talking to. But it just seems that it might have been out there already, another person of interest or another lead that the FBI would have came up with. But again, like I said, anything can come in. It might not be something that's in the case folder. It might not be something that they're aware of yet. And a tip comes in later on of someone that maybe their conscience gets to them and they make a phone call about something else.
Yeah, well, Detective, thank you. Great points. Mario, let me ask you about the fact that we have a capital case here against this guy. I'm curious if you think we'll see a resolution in this one, or if you think it's going to progress all the way to the point of trial.
So, I mean, it's a death penalty case. So the only way you're going to get a resolution in this case is if they offer him something other than the death penalty, and he wants to take that. I mean, the young man recognizes what he did was wrong, and if he doesn't want to get the death penalty, his attorney should start pitching. He'll serve life in jail for a life sentence. I mean, that's the only way. That's the only way this case gets resolved, is if they take the death penalty off the table. And they may do that just to spare public outcry, to spare the witnesses, to spare the widow in this case. They may actually do that. Public outcry, though, is for the death penalty, and it's up to the prosecution to do what they think is best and to not capitulate to the public outcry. If they think it's best to the widow and the children in this case that he serve a life sentence and they take the death penalty off the table, then I believe we'll probably see a resolution.
Yeah, great points, Mario. And just a follow-up for you, please. Practically speaking, doing the defense work that you do, is now too early to have that conversation if this defendant is so inclined to say, I want to enter a plea?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we don't have any evidence. I mean, as a defense attorney, I want to see every single piece of evidence, so this way I have enough ammunition in my bag to go back to them and say, look, you got this, but it's maybe not as powerful as you think it is. And without having all of that information, you can't possibly go to a prosecutor and ask for a resolution to the case. I always wait until I have everything, and I know my client. What's my client's background? I probably just met this man. What's his background? Does he have him evaluated by a doctor? See what's going on. And then after you have all the information is the only time you would go back and speak to a prosecutor about a possible resolution.
A great insight from you both. He's going to be in court today, appearing virtually. We'll follow every development. I'll bring it to you live on Court TV. Mario Gallucci, Tom Smith, thank you both kindly.